Hello everybody, welcome back to another podcast. So last weekend we have two movies, Annabelle Comes Home and yesterday in theaters. Let's see how those movies did at the box office. Alright, let's jump right in. Coming in number one is Toy Story 4, which repeated at the top spot, pulling in 57.9 million. In the second weekend, a drop off is about 52% from its opening weekend. And even though this movie, has the highest opening in the franchise history, its drop off is actually quite high as well. I mean, for the top movie, like Toy Story 4 is the top grosser in the franchise currently, right at 415 million. But Toy Story 4 has a drop off, in the second weekend drop off, like in 52%. Toy Story 3 has a drop off like in the 49s or something like that. So we will see if, Toy Story 4 will continue to have the highest drop off, considering it has competition this weekend with Spider-Man Far From Home. And so far, it's on track, but we will have to see what the drop-off is, because right now the drop-off, like I said, is higher than Toy Story 3. So it might not be able to beat out, but it definitely beat out Toy Story 2. And overseas, Toy Story 4 pulled in 262 million for a worldwide total of 499 million. So the Toy Story 3 pulled in 1 billion. And right now, Toy Story 4 is halfway there. So worldwide, we'll see, we have two stories here, right? We have domestically, we'll see if Toy Story 4 will beat out Toy Story 3 as the top grossing movie in the franchise, as well as worldwide. Toy Story 3, supposedly was supposed to be the capstone, the Endgame, so to speak, for the Toy Story series. And then they managed to squeeze out another one, even though, like I said, it has the highest grossing movie in the Toy Story franchise. It still did not beat out like the openings of like Finding Dory, for example, or The Incredibles 2, which suggests that people, have let go of the series with Toy Story 3. So yeah, keep an eye on this in the coming weeks. Alright, number two is Annabelle Comes Home. It's one of the new releases last weekend, a horror movie, I believe this is the third Annabelle movie. It opened to 20.4 million in its opening weekend. Let's see, this is a movie that I said could probably open somewhere like 35 million 5 days, or 25 to 30 million 3 days. It opened on a Wednesday, by the way. And 20 million is like far cry from 25 to 30 million. I thought this movie would open higher because the Annabelle series has been doing well, spin-off of the Conjuring series. Yeah, like I said, there was there's a dip at the box office. Like I projected higher for all the movies, but some of the movies open lower, but some open higher as well. So I was just totally off on some of them. So Annabelle Comes Home, 69% on the tomato meter, which is actually well reviewed for a horror movie. But considering it's from the Annabelle series and the Conjuring series, those movies usually are well reviewed, right? A B- cinema score. Still, a 20 million opening is actually pretty decent for Annabelle Comes Home, since this movie probably cost about 50 million to make in any case, right? So still pretty decent. It's too soon to say that there is Annabelle fatigue. It could be one of this thing might not appeal to Annabelle fans or horror fans, or it could be, like I said, there's a general dip in the summer box office somewhat. All right, number three, moving along, is yesterday, a movie starring Hamish Patel, Lily James, Kate McKinnon, and others, directed by Danny Boyle. It is about a guy, the only guy who remembered that the Beatles exist, and he took their songs to fame and glory. And this movie, I said, could probably pull in about 5 million. So I said this movie could probably open more because of how well these movies that's based on musicians or bands have been doing so well lately, with Bohemian Rhapsody, Rocketman, Stars Born, etc. Right? This one features, the Beatles soundtrack, and that's actually pretty appealing to fans. So yesterday opened to 17 million, which is actually pretty good, right? And it's not the 5 million that I say it would do. The budget's only 26 million, so yeah, the 17 million is actually pretty good. Let's see how it did overseas. 7.8 million overseas for a worldwide total of 24.8 million. But considering how well this movie, especially it's the Beatles and all, right, a very I guess international band, loved worldwide. So I expect this, the numbers to be higher in the coming weeks. All right, number 4 is Aladdin. It pulled in 9.3 million in the 6th weekend. Drop off is about 3% from the previous weekend, and domestic gross is 305 million. And let's see, overseas it pulled in 570 million for a worldwide total of 876 million, and the budget is only 183 million. So yeah, I guess another successful live action adaptation of Disney's classics. Number 5 is The Secret Life of Pets 2. It pulled in 7.1 million in its 4th weekend. Drop off is about 31% from the previous weekend. And domestic gross is 131 million. Let's see how it did overseas. 92 million overseas for a worldwide total of 223 million. Number 6 is Men in Black International. It fell 39% from its previous weekend to pull in 6.6 million in its 3rd weekend. Domestic gross is 65 million, and the budget is 110 million. So it's not doing well at the domestic box office. Let's see how it did overseas. Overseas, it pulled in 154 million for a worldwide total of 219 million. So as you can see, the Men in Black franchise has kind of fizzled out at the domestic market, but overseas is still doing okay. But Sony will have to think long and hard, before they greenlight another Men in Black movie. Okay, number 7 is Avengers Endgame. It gained 1,000 additional theaters, maybe for the 4th of July bump. It pulled in, or it could be, because of Spider-Man that's coming out this week as well. Because Spider-Man Far From Home is kind of like a continuation of a storyline from Endgame. The aftermath of Endgame, what happened in Endgame. So that's why they released it in more theaters last weekend. So it pulled in 5.5 million in its 10th weekend because of the 1,000 additional theaters. Domestic gross is 841 million so far right now, and overseas 1.9 billion for a worldwide total of 2.8 billion. All right, number 8 is the horror movie Child's Play. It is a reboot of the horror movie series from the 80s, I believe, right? Let's see, in its 2nd weekend it dropped about 70% to pull in 4.3 million. The high drop off is expected, by the way, and domestic gross is 23.4 million. Let's see, overseas, it hasn't opened overseas yet, so that number is not available, but the budget is only 10 million. So yeah, that's actually the reboot's actually doing okay. All right, number 9 is Rocketman, the biopic about Elton John. It pulled in 3.9 million in its 5th weekend, drop off of about 31% from the previous weekend. Domestic gross is about 84 million, and overseas it pulled in 81 million for a worldwide total of 165 million. The budget is only 40 million, so yeah, it's actually doing pretty well. All right, closing out the top 10 is John Wick Chapter 3 Parabellum. It pulled in about 3.2 million in its 7th weekend. Drop off is about 22%. Domestic gross is 161 million, and let's see, overseas it pulled in 142 million for a worldwide total of 303 million. All right, so that's it for the box office top 10. Let's move on to the new releases this weekend. We're gonna have 2 big ones, the biggest of which is Spider-Man Far From Home. It is opening on July 2nd, which is on a Tuesday. And then Midsommar. It is kind of a horror thriller movie from A24. Okay, let's start off with Spider-Man Far From Home. So this is I believe the 2nd movie that is under the Marvel umbrella. Remember, Sony partner up with Marvel and have them take over the franchise, and they share in the profits, I believe. Far From Home This is about Spider-Man going out, overseas on a vacation, and he got conscripted by Nick Fury to join a team, I guess, to battle the bad guys again. And this, like I said, this is a continuation of the storyline that ended with Endgame, right? This is a continuation from Endgame. So for Far From Home, Spider-Man Far From Home, if you haven't seen Endgame, it's available in theaters. Marvel added more locations for Endgame. You can go watch it out if you haven't. And Far From Home is, continuation of that, dealing with the aftermath, and more growth from this fledgling superhero. This movie opened overseas already, I believe in China, and it pulled in 111 million already. So Tom Holland returns to star as our titular hero. Jake Gyllenhaal is here as some other superhero from some other dimension, etc. Right? Let's see, how will this movie do? I think this movie might break the box office slump that we're having. Right now, reviews for the movies are actually pretty good, 92% on Rotten Tomatoes. So yeah, for a 3-day weekend, I think this movie could probably have an open of 180 million, right? If it's 6 days, it's probably 200 million plus. I hope I'm right on this one. I've been off recently, but let's go. Spider-Man will kick off the summer blockbuster movies. Alright, so up next is Midsommar, I think. Midsommar. So this movie stars Florence Pugh, Jack Reynor, directed by Ari Aster. It's about a couple who went to a retreat and discovered that, this retreat actually is the home base of a pagan cult of some sort, and, witchcraft is involved, etc., right? It's actually currently well reviewed right now, 85% on the tomato meter. But like I said, this movie is counter programming for, Spider-Man Far From Home, one of these thriller horror movies. And, with Spider-Man, I believe, like I said, all the oxygen from the other movies are going to be sucked up, by Spider-Man. So since this movie does not have, big names in it, I think this movie could probably, open to 3 to 5 million, probably on the lower end of that, this weekend. Alright, so that's it for this week's podcast. Tune in next week to see how I did. Until then, have a great 4th of July.